Welcome to this exploration of our heart. What's happening in our emotions? What's happening in our heart? One thing that we all know is how challenging it can be to be present with our feelings and emotions, and also how blank and gray and kind of deadening it can feel to not be in touch with our emotions. Our survival mechanisms, the fight, flight, freeze, really robs us from fully feeling. It protects us, of course, and that's why we do it. But it really robs us from a full range of experience. So it's natural and normal, this practice or this process. It's a survival mechanism in a way. And when we experience intense emotions in particular, I think we've all had the experience of going into shock. We don't really let it in completely. And this really happens when something is distressing. We lose somebody, we lose our job, we have a diagnosis of illness. It takes a while for our system to come back into, oh, this is actually happening. And in the meantime, we're more likely to go into whatever of the mechanisms is our kind of home away from home. So we have fight, flight, and freeze. Some people go into more of a fight response and get really angry. Why is this happening to me? And it's not fair. And all of those things might be true. I'm not at all saying that they're not true. It's just the tendency. What are our tendencies? Where do we tend to go when something is a bit too overwhelming and we're not really able to fully feel? Flight, a lot of addictions go off into flight. We just get out of here. We dissociate. We do something that absorbs our attention. We get really busy. We get really engaged with screens. We spend the weekend just kind of binge watch something. So we know that those things happen and we all have experience. And with freeze, I think what is one of the harder ones because we really miss out on our life when we're in a state of freeze. Even good news. And I've had that happen to me too. And it's like I hardly registered at the beginning. And then a few minutes later, it's like, oh, or maybe it's longer than a few minutes. So the way that we cope with sudden loss or sudden disturbances has a lot to do with what worked for us in the past. And some of it is practical, like as I've been working with the loss of my sister over the last few weeks, I've really been trying to clear more time in my schedule. I've been doing more to support sleeping and resting. And if I'm not sleeping at night, then I'm trying to give myself enough time to have naps or something during the day. I'm getting out more for walks to the ocean. So instead of doing the temporary things that aren't all that helpful, we can also do a lot of things that are helpful. Instead of silent meditation, maybe it's guided relaxations. There are a lot of ways that we can work with this. So, whenever feelings are uncomfortable or overwhelming, we feel them to some extent. And what we can't afford to feel, we repress. So, we're not even aware of what it is. But they're under the surface, they're in our unconscious mind, which is also very much in our body. And sometimes we know that we don't want to feel them or that we're avoiding them. And so we suppress them. So suppressed emotion is a little bit easier to contact. Repressed emotion, we might have a sense that something's wrong, but we don't really know what it is. So that takes a little bit of a deeper exploration and inquiry. One thing we know is that our brain really associates. So we have one thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that stored trauma is in our body along with the associated thoughts and memories. So that gives us an indication that if we go into our body and into our heart, into our gut, we have gut instinct, we have what the heart knows, and that we can explore this a little bit and find out what it is that we're protecting ourselves from that we're not feeling. How can we invite that in a way that's helpful and that's not overwhelming? And a big part of that has to do with being grounded and oriented into the present moment. So let's go into the inquiry. And before we really bring these questions in, and as we're doing them, we really come back to the safety in the moment. You might look around the room, might remember you could hold your own hands, feel the warmth, the support of that. Anytime that there's images or memories that are starting to feel overwhelming, open your eyes, put the image on the other side of the room in a frame. There's all of those grounding and orienting tools. Let's sit with this, and I'll just slowly go through them. And as you're coming to them or as you're looking at them on the screen, just see what is your response in your body. There's no right or wrong answers to this kind of inquiry. I can afford to feel this. What comes up when you say that? For me, part of what comes up is I know the cost of suppressing it and not feeling it. And I know it's going to be difficult and painful when I feel it, no matter whether it's now or later. But if I can feel it now to the best that I can do, and that doesn't mean I have to just be feeling and feeling and feeling and feeling kind of compulsively. But if I can feel what's here now, then what we know is that it moves through. We feel it. We notice it in our body. We might notice thoughts are coming in as well, other thoughts. To the best of my capacity, I want to feel it now so that it's not getting stuck. What's your response in your body, though? So we might know that in our mind, that's the best strategy. What happens in your body when you say, I can afford to feel this? Notice your breath, any energy or sensations in your body. And as we're sitting with that, there's a lot of nuance that comes into. We have a lot more capacity as an adult to stay with things that were overwhelming to us as a child. And we can see that there's a natural inclination to avoid pain. When things feel like they're too intense, we pull away, or we have the urge to pull away. I'll think about that later. I'll feel that later. Right now, it's not a good time. And that's actually a good strategy as long as it never is the right time. We could have a lot of compassion towards ourselves. This is difficult. As you're bringing to mind, or maybe something's arising that's difficult to feel, notice the way that that moves through. What are the thoughts? What are the feelings, sensations in your body, the energy of that? And can you support yourself a little bit more in this moment to stay with the feeling? I'm going to do this for a little while. You've got time. And if it feels like too much, that's okay too. You might kind of notice things around the edges. We don't always have to jump right into the middle of something. Maybe you could focus on what it feels like right now to not want to feel it. What does that feel like in your body? Continue to notice your breath. We always want to be present in this moment. A lot of painful feelings have a lot of associations with them. When we have a loss of one kind, it often brings back memories and feelings about other losses. Right now, in this moment, you could hold your own hand, you could feel your seat, your feet. Look around, remind yourself that you're right here. Just stay grounded in the present. I want to feel everything. I'm cultivating being more open and present. I really want to feel everything. And what's your response to that in your body, in your mind as well? What are your thoughts? Like, whoa, no, no way. Or, yeah, that's true. I do. I want to keep opening to this. I don't want to push it away. And sit with that for a bit. And if there's any kind of a energetic closing down or contraction, see if you could sit with that for a bit. What's involved in that? What is it that makes it so hard to stay present and feel what's here? And it could be that the loss or the difficult or painful feelings that you're working with right now are something that's present moment. It could also be that this is a part of you, a younger part of you that was really hurt in the past. And if that's the case, it would be good to bring in your adult self. Children don't have a great capacity to be present with emotion. They really need someone to be co regulating with them, helping them feel safer. So it could be that that's what's going on. And if that's the case, you might really steady yourself. I'm not a child. And as my adult self, I'm able to really be present with my younger self. We can feel it together. Continue to notice your breath. Let your body be soft. I really want to feel what's here. How can I support myself in doing that? Sometimes we have thoughts and memories are coming up of a certain loss, or maybe it's a fresh loss. Other times, there might not be a lot in the mind, but we might have a feeling of being blocked in our body or feeling some kind of energy or sensation, and we could start directly there. Bring our attention into whatever the energy or sensations are. Quite often, they're in the torso, the throat, chest, belly, back. It might be, I can afford to feel this sensation or energy. You can always notice the space on the outside of it. You can notice where it is in your body. And I am immensely grateful to feel alive. This is going to be a wholehearted yes if you feel good. It's going to be a conditional yes, most likely, if there's pain or suffering, grief, loss. What's your response to that right now in this moment? I'm immensely grateful to have feelings, to be present with my feelings, to feel alive, even when it's difficult. If we come back to the fight, flight, freeze, the way that we protect ourselves from feeling, maybe we could sit with that for a minute as well. I don't need to go into those strategies quite so fully or to stay there as long. I can afford to be here and present. I can afford to feel this. We're going to come out of the inquiry in a moment. And before you do, just to review what's come forward in the last 20 minutes. What have you observed about yourself? And can you be present with yourself with kindness and compassion? If you want, you could put a hand on your heart. Let yourself be present to yourself, with yourself.